Welcome to today's news wrap up. Let's dive right into the top stories making headlines today. A CNN poll reveals that the Democratic Party's favorability has reached its lowest point since 1992, now standing at 29%, which marks a 20-point drop since January 2021. In contrast, the Republican Party's favorability rating is currently at 36%. The poll was conducted just before Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and 10 Democratic senators supported a GOP spending bill to prevent a government shutdown. This decision has led to harsh criticism from other Democrats in both the House and the Senate. The decline in favorability highlights growing challenges within the Democratic Party. Federal agencies, including the FAA, NASA, and NOAA, have acknowledged that jet contrails significantly impact the atmosphere and climate. You know, something us conspiracy theorists been saying forever now. But these contrails formed from jet engine emissions can persist for hours or days, altering weather patterns and contributing to global warming. The agency's report highlights two types of contrails, one that contains its linear shape and another that spreads to cover vast areas. Both types trap heat in the atmosphere with effects comparable to the cumulative CO2 emissions from aviation since the jet age began. Plans are underway to expand and manage these operations by 2050, requiring substantial investment in research and development. Y'all know what I believe. These contrails are by design, but I can go down a whole rabbit hole with that, but we won't do that right now today. West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey has signed a law banning males, including those identifying as transgender women, from entering women-only spaces. The measure applies to bathrooms, locker rooms, changing areas, and sleeping quarters in schools, shelters, and other facilities, emphasizing the importance of privacy and safety for women and girls. The law defines male and female based on biology, and is set to take effect on June 9th, 2025. Advocates argue the legislation safeguards women's privacy, while critics question its broader implications. A high school athlete who has faced challenges with existing policies expressed gratitude for this change, highlighting its importance in protecting dignity and safety. And that's really what it's all about. A recent study published in the Oxford Journal of Sexual Medicine revealed that irreversible transgender surgery significantly increase rates of depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and substance abuse. And this is something I have been talking about for years now. I've been pointing to studies that show this, and people that's for so-called gender of affirmation or gender surgery, they ignore these studies. Now we got a study from Oxford. But the research, which analyzed over 107,000 patients, showed higher depression rates among individuals who underwent such surgeries comparing to those who did not. For example, males who have feminizing surgeries faced a whopping 25.4% depression rate compared to 11.5% in those who avoided the procedure. Despite these findings, the researchers suggest the need for gender-sensitive mental health support rather than discontinuing the surgeries. I believe in discontinuing the surgeries. Critics argue that gender-affirming procedures fail to address the underlying causes of mental health struggles and often exacerbate the problems they aim to resolve. Studies also indicate that a majority of children experiencing gender dysphoria outgrow it naturally by adolescence, raising concerns about the long-term effects of irreversible treatments. Representative Jasmine Crockett from Texas has called for a new leadership within the Democratic Party, expressing frustration with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's performance. During an interview, she questioned whether the U.S. will even hold elections in 4 years, which is just utterly ridiculous. This is the Democrats fear-mongering again. But she emphasizing the need for younger and fresher leadership in the Senate. Crockett's comments reflect growing tensions within the party as progressives and moderates alike debate Schumer's suitability for leadership. She highlighted the frustrations of the Democratic lawmakers during recent legislative struggles and argued that leadership should not rely solely on one person's judgment. These remarks underscore the ongoing internal division as the party navigates its future direction. I think it's the end of the Democrat Party is what's going on. That's what we're witnessing. The Trump administration has deported over 250 alleged members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Agua to El Salvador, where they are being held in a high security prison. And we already talked about how the judge tried to stop this from happening. But even the El Salvadorian president, he tweeted out and was told the judge, too late, because they already landed in El Salvador. And if y'all haven't seen the footage, I advise y'all to check it out on Twitter and watch them cutting their heads off and locking them up in prison. But this action follows President Trump's invocation of the Aliens Enemies Act of 1798, marking its first use since World War II. The U.S. has designated Tren de Agua and MS-13 as terrorist organizations, and El Salvador has agreed to detain these individuals for a year in exchange for $6 million. Legal challenges have emerged, with the federal judge temporarily halting deportations for some detainees, what I was just alluding to, citing concerns over the act's application, which is ridiculous. It has absolutely no standing. You can't tell a president how to protect its borders. But despite this, the administration emphasizes the importance of removing these individuals to protect national security. New York City's Democratic leaders are pushing to close Rikers Island and replace it with smaller borough-based jails, despite concerns about public safety. Critics argue that reducing jail capacity will lead to more criminals on the streets, as seen after previous decarceration efforts during COVID-19. I mean, crime substantially went up after that. But proponents of the plan advocate for alternatives to incarceration, such as job training and therapy, though studies suggest these measures do not effectively deter crime. A criminal is going to keep on being a criminal. There's no amount of therapy is going to work with that. If the person is not willing to change, they're not going to change. Well, former officials and public safety advocates emphasize the need for adequate jail space to manage recidivist offenders and maintain order. Some suggest rebuilding Rikers to address its current issues while preserving its capacity to house inmates securely. President Trump has announced plans to release classified documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, Martin Luther King Jr., and John F. Kennedy in the coming weeks. Y'all know how I feel about it. I'm not very optimistic about the information we're going to receive. But he stated that the process is progressing rapidly and emphasized that these records, particularly the Kennedy files, are highly sought after. Trump acknowledged withholding some documents during his presidency based on advice from trusted individuals, but now regrets not fully disclosing them. Recent discoveries have added 2,000 more documents on Kennedy to the collection set for release. This move aims to provide greater transparency and address long-standing public interest in these historical cases. Police in New York City are searching for a suspect described as a Middle Eastern-looking male after a man was set on fire in Times Square early Sunday morning. Now, mind you, they're trying to cut back on jails, and you got crimes like this going on in public spaces. But the victim, a man in his 40s, was doused with an accelerant and ignited while walking with a female companion. Officers quickly extinguished the flames, and the victim was rushed to the hospital with severe burns. The motive for the attack remains unclear, and the suspect is still at large. This incident follows a similar case in December when an illegal immigrant was charged with arson and murder for burning a woman alive in a subway car. Crazy. And lastly, President Trump has signed an executive order dismantling 8 federal agencies, including the U.S. Agency for Global Media and Voice of America, as part of efforts to streamline the federal government. Following this decision, VOA journalists were placed on paid administrative leave and restricted from accessing work systems without prior permission. No loss there. This order also impacts agencies such as the Federal Mediation and Consolation Service and the Minority Business Development Agency. The administration aims to cut unnecessary operations and reduce government spending, with tech entrepreneur Elon Musk leading an initiative that has already identified significant cost-saving measures. Critics of the USAGM argue its operation with it operates with the liberal bias, while Trump allies support ongoing restructuring to reshape the federal workforce and improve efficiency. But that's all for today's news wrap up. Stay tuned for more updates. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.